Okay, welcome, and I hereby call this meeting to order. Our first item is to approve today's agenda, which
And Rand, I know you sent it out. I can't.
put the agenda.
Yeah.
Well, you might have to go to the website.
Let me put a link in the chat.
Okay.
And this is just a Google Doc. If you want a PDF, I can put a link to that in the chat too.
Okay. I do want to, I'm going to guess, add a couple of items. Chat. There it is.
So let's see, where would you add something? Probably be
Did you get it up, Guy?
I did, thank you.
Okay.
Where would it fit?
Well, what are you proposing to add?
Well, Rand and I have been participating in these webinars organized by, I probably won't come up with a whole name, Cascadia Hub is kind of how we refer to it. It's a group of about 8 universities, number of researchers on West Coast, I think every down from probably
Vancouver South.
UC Santa Cruz north to UW, working with researchers around the world really about ways to deal with coastal resilience, coastal community resilience. So we've been periodically attending their webinars. One of their goals as an organization is to help with communities who are living on the coast, dealing with resilience issues, with climate change, and essentially with coastal issues with the ocean. And so we were curious as to whether or not there are some resources there that could help with our community planning. I mean, we already have worked with some of these people when we did the coastal hazards overlay zone and the adaptation plan. In fact, the co-leader of this group was active in that process and also was the main speaker when we did the information series, Peter Ruggiero, on beaches and dunes. So anyways, Rand and I just talked with a couple of the folks this week, and we just wanted to report on that in general, just to keep people advised and looking at it as a potential resource for our committee, but for the CAC and more broadly, but much more to go on that. So that's what it is. I'm sorry, Jeff. We're taking up. That's the agenda item.
Okay.
That's what we wanted to do.
And would that fit in well before the document structure discussion or after the document?
Before.
Okay, so I'm gonna tentatively add this in as new item 6.
Okay.
I also want to discuss Kat's email to us last night.
Okay, and where would you like to do that?
Sooner than later.
Well, before Mark leaves.
Exactly.
Okay. How about after, especially since Sarah is not here, after conflict of interest declarations?
Sure.
And just
on
that same topic, I would like to, having done the homework assignment we got last time and really spent a lot of time on it, I would like to limit the discussion of the document format to like 10 to 15 minutes, because I think we're putting a whole bunch of process in front of something that we have some other steps to take before we discuss it. I think it's very valuable work, but I think there's some preliminary discussions to that we should have based on the homework assignment we had to go through the document
Sure.
and really think about what we have to do to meet the requirement for a community plan. So I would put that before the presentation. I would even be comfortable postponing that presentation because I think we've got other work we have to do first. But if we're going to have it, I'd like to limit it to 10 to 15 minutes.
So well, just give me 1 second to add the item about Kat's email. And then let's see. And Lynn, are you proposing that continued document structure discussion, thoughts from committee members, which is the homework item,
Right?
be moved ahead of the
Yes.
document structure
Yes.
discussion?
Yep.
Okay. All
That kind of confuses me. I thought the document structure was supposed to help us.
I
in
think it's
our-
yeah, and I think when I saw the detail of it, I think it's premature. So based on the homework assignment, it wasn't until I did the homework and went back into the community plan and the Oregon requirements for community planning. So I don't want to have a big discussion of what he's proposed, because I think we first have to have a discussion about what we need to do based on what Oregon requires and what we're expected to produce. And I think that's his discussion, particularly if we haven't heard from Sarah on whether we're going to have consultants or not, then I really think it's premature to have that discussion about how we're going to lay this out. So it's very helpful. Please understand, I'm appreciative of it, but I think we have some work to do before we get into those weeds.
What are the thoughts from Rand and Guy on that? And Guy wasn't here last time, so he may not have a clear idea.
Right. So I missed the assignment. I'm sorry, and I didn't go back and listen to the.
Well, it was the same assignment as previously, to go through the document and find areas you think are critical to deal with, and then how we gonna. I've proposed that we break into teams that deal with 1 to 2 people.
I guess I didn't but I hear something different from Lynn though. Lynn saying to look at what the requirements are for community planning, not
Right.
to take a look at what we have currently and
So
Right.
it's maybe this would be helpful. And I think to get the ball rolling, I think the first thing we should do is limit the amount of that format discussion until we've had a discussion about the current community plan and what he has proposed, which is a very detailed format, and step out of both of those things and say, what do we have to produce to meet the legal requirements? And what do we want it to accomplish? Because I think part of the reason when I went back and went through it all, part of the reason the last community plan didn't produce anything is it's like a nice book. It's a lot of narrative. It has a lot of statutory stuff in there that we've got to have. And it doesn't matter what format we use, it's got to be there. The law, the rules require it to be there. So we've got this kind of mix. And if we really want to produce a productive document, I think we need to have a discussion, not an abstract discussion about how it should be laid out or how we should edit the current document, but about kind of what's the core we have to comply with the administrative rules and the county regulations and the state regulations. And that's, we went way over that last time. I mean, in the last document we complied with everything, but we didn't create an action document. We created a bookshelf document. And to me, even though, Guy, your point that this drives zoning and that's where the rubber meets the road, if we really want people to read this, it's got to be a document that's user friendly. And I don't think the last document, I would bet very few people read it. I bet very few people embraced it. And as a result, very little got done. And I just don't think that's our goal here. So I want to put the what do we want to have happen discussion before the here's a wonderfully articulate outline for how to do a report. I'm more interested in an action document than a report.
I'm okay either way. You know, and Lynn, I see Tom's structure, the recommended structure as a way to get at exactly what you're saying, but we can approach it either way. I think we're fine.
And I love that Tom is not here. And I had contact with him earlier today, not about this, so I know he's like okay and stuff. But yeah, he may have forgotten or something.
All right, we can do it.
Yeah. So let's
Just put
do we
Lynn in
want to go
there.
ahead and flip the order and have
Sure.
Tom like kind of do a wrap up rather than a lead in if he makes it.
Sure.
Okay.
Can we ask Lynn to light her face? I mean, she has such a
I'm
wonderful
sitting in
face.
is that better?
That's
No,
kind of-
no, not
kind of
yet.
going
More,
in and out.
more.
I just want you to know my face doesn't get any better no matter how. I'm
No,
past
you
that
have a
age.
beautiful face. We just want
No,
to be
we
able to
just
see it.
couldn't
It
see
looks like
it.
this.
Okay.
We're talking to
Okay.
a shadow on this.
Okay, so we have Lynn's gonna lead us through what she has found, I guess, after Sarah. Is that right? Because Sarah's here.
Well, let me share my screen and show you what I have for the agenda
Okay.
before we
Oh my.
Hey,
Hi,
Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
Okay,
Hi, Sarah.
okay.
Is that reasonably legible?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, and is everyone good with that and want to approve that as the amended agenda? Or Rand, do you want to do the honors?
You can do the honors anytime you like. So do we approve this agenda as provided?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
All right, move forward.
Okay, amend and approve the January 8th meeting minutes. The only amendment I would make is to include 8 after January, because I just said January meeting. I didn't say January 8th meeting. And I kind of counted on Jeff to add the guests, since I didn't really have all the guests. People came and went, in the first 10 minutes, so I don't know who you count. So I just left that with the people I knew who were there and were active in the meeting. Those would be the only 2 adjustments. I don't know if anyone has any other
I have no objection.
adjustments. Okay, Lynn, you good?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
all right.
Move to approve. We're already
Okay.
35 minutes ahead of
So
our last
moved.
meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we got 3. All right, please let me know, raise your hand if you have a conflict of interest on an agenda item at this meeting. Seeing no raised hands, I declare there is no conflict of interest by any of the members of the committee. And the next item, we were gonna, oh, now I can't remember if you put this before or after Sarah. I think before Sarah.
I'll keep, yeah, it's next item is Kat's email. I will keep you up to date on the new agendas.
Okay, thank you.
So
Okay.
I asked for this to be on the agenda. And I know as a committee, it's not within our authority to determine our own membership. I don't think. I think it's the CAC, and Mark does the appointments, and I know there was a process there. I just wanted to express my real concern about someone continuing on this committee who has, as she expressed, as little interest in participating in our process. Yes, this is going to be a long and difficult process. We're going to have days where we spend 40 minutes approving the minutes. That's what community planning sometimes demands. And I think that a statement that says, I'm not interested until you get something serious enough for me to participate, says to me that that's not someone who I think is committed to our process, committed and will help in any way get us to the end. So I just wanted to express my views. I know that, as I said, that I wanted Mark to hear them. And I would hope that the Mark or the CAC takes action to remove Kat from our committee and offer, if someone else is interested in this long and arduous process, to find somebody else.
I have to share that I've had difficulty. I've asked her 3 times if she'd like to follow through with being the scribe. I've received no response about that. And a number of other questions that I've asked for people to read materials and such, and got no feedback at all from her. So I'm not sure what's going on, but it doesn't feel very positive. Plus some unwarranted accusations that I don't live in the community and that I am talking about providing a point of view on short-term rentals, which I only shared what the facts are about the short-term rental committee, not any perspective on how I felt about it or anything like that. So I don't know where it feels unwarranted that those comments came forward. So,
okay. Yeah, I looks like yesterday I think Jeff, you forwarded an email to me.
Yeah,
last night.
This is the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like I have the email. I read it this morning. I just want to make sure it's the right one. It was, yeah. So I understand your concerns about this. I think what'll happen is I don't know how the officers of the NCAC, I'm not sure the appropriate way to talk about this regarding somebody on a committee.
I remember, Mark, what was your process in approving the appointments to the committee that you get?
So these were, everybody was voted on for this committee.
That's right.
If you remember, Guy.
Right.
By the membership. And there was, the process was similar to what we did for the bylaws. We asked for volunteers. People would indicate they were interested. I would contact them and have a conversation with them about the duties and what it looked like their role would be and how much time, as much as we could, how much time would be involved and things like that. And then they were put forward to the membership to vote on. So, so that's how people have been appointed to the committees.
And to jump in here, the bylaws do not address this situation.
Yeah.
We are flying blind.
Yeah.
I don't think so my view is step one is either if you want to try and like engage with Kat and say, hey, we're not feeling good about the attitude you've been showing, like, what do you think? Do you want to try and be a better participant in the community or in the committee? Or if you feel like it's gone beyond that, you can say, like, we don't feel good about your participation anymore. Will you resign of your own accord? And if she refuses, then we're kind of up a creek because we don't have a mechanism to remove someone. We would have to kind of make something up and probably have to vote on removing her from the committee with the whole membership of the NCAC. So if you feel like you're willing and able to try and resolve things and talk to her about like, hey, we would like you to be a more constructive participant in the committee. Are you willing to make an effort? And Yeah, but or ask her to resign, or like, and if at that point, if neither of those provides a satisfactory resolution, we're kind of in a funny space. So
Well, again, I know as a committee, we have no authority in one way or the other. It just really concerns me that we would be moving forward with a committee member with that kind of approach to what we're doing. Call me if you get serious. So maybe Mark, as a suggestion, you could have a conversation with her as kind of where Jeff's just recommended, and see where she's at, and if she's either willing to fully participate through this process, knowing it's going to be long, knowing there are going to be times when
Yeah.
we grind it out,
Yeah.
or if she wants to maybe just come and participate as a guest at times when she wants to jump in. But I don't think we can continue with what she's kind of stated what she wants. So it's either commit to full participation or take a look at our agendas and come, you're welcome as a guest whenever you would like to contribute as a guest. But we need to find out, I think, one way or the other.
So she didn't resign,
No,
right?
No,
So I
she just
think,
said she's not showing up until it gets
Yeah.
serious.
so I think that because Jeff's right, you don't have anything in your bylaws, I think she either needs to resign or participate.
so I can tell everybody that I'm pretty comfortable having this conversation. This doesn't, I know I understand what Jeff is saying about the process for this.
Right.
This wouldn't be anything new for me to do, having done the jobs that I've done before. So I'm happy to contact Kat. I'm happy to let her know that we discussed this at the meeting, and that I'm probing to see where she's at and her commitment and what's. I'll have to go back and review the emails. I think there were a couple before I engage her in the conversation, but.
That's great, Mark. Thank you.
But I'm happy to do that.
Great.
I
It's
think
a little bit, I would say, like Jeff said, I like to I do like sort of go by the book, and there's nothing written here. So this is just a conversation with Kat and I about her involvement in the committee. That's what I would say this is going to be.
I think it's important. I mean, first of all, we live in difficult times, and people have moments, and they explode, or they have reactions, and then they reconcile that. And so I would like us not on the first go around to ask her to resign, because I think that creates a whole different issue we have to deal with in the community. I'd like you to have a discreet conversation with her about what we need. This committee is committed to civility and to getting the work done. But also, we also understand that it is a tough time for a lot of people, and we want to be sympathetic to that. If she had a moment, if she had something that happened, I mean, it was a long week for a lot of Oregonians last week. But I'd like us not to ask her to resign without us having a second conversation based on the result of your conversation with her.
Yep. I understand that. Okay, I'm happy to do that. I'll try and do that this week, by the end of the week. And I think probably I'll once I speak with her, I'll contact Rand, since you're the chair, Rand.
Thank you. And I pretty much hesitated to respond to her emails. I just thought it was better to not engage with her because I didn't know. It was hard for me to tell where she was coming from or what I could do.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your intervention. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Okay. Guy, you want to talk about, we could both share our information about the hub and where that fits, but just explaining who the hub was about 90% of it. But it also included Peter was critical in the engagement with Princeton.
So sorry, Rand, let me do a agenda. So the next item on the agenda is to check in with Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Hub was 6.
All right.
so
So-
and specifically to check in on like last week after you left, Sarah, the committee was asking questions about what's the status of the consultant, like what's going on there.
Sure. So I met with the consulting team lead last Friday. And so we are meeting again tomorrow. So all of the planners countywide that are a part of this process and I are all meeting tomorrow with the consultants. And we're going to put together a timeline to go to communities and cities to talk about Senate Bill 406. And so I should have that for you maybe next week. Mark, let's see. So I guess this is something I would ask Mark, is if you want to fold this into a regularly scheduled CAC meeting, or if you would like to have a special town hall just about 406 with the consulting team.
Boy, how much time, how much time do you think that might?
Well, we want to.
Presentation and Q&A, right?
Yeah, I would say, and we definitely want to leave enough time to make sure that we can address questions.
Yeah.
I would say 2 hours.
Yeah, okay. So I would say a
The
separate meeting.
presentation, the presentation won't be that long. I would anticipate a half-hour presentation and laying everything out, and an hour and a half for Q&A.
Okay. So that'd be a special meeting, don't you think, Jeff?
Yeah. If it's going to be 2 hours, we probably want to set aside.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm anticipating a lot of questions from the community on that. So want to make sure that we leave that time and that people don't feel rushed. So everyone's heard. One of the initial conversations I've had with the consulting team is meeting format. My thought is we either do a hybrid if there's a place, even if it's at the Kiwanda Community Center, because there's not a place big enough perhaps to meet in Neskowin. I can do a hybrid, or we can keep it strictly virtual.
Okay.
So, and I would say probably we would like to have that meeting in the next couple of months, as we're going to map out everywhere we're going.
So
Sarah, can I ask a couple
Go
of
ahead.
questions? And I'll ask them both and you can answer in order. One, I'm just curious is when you talk about the consulting team, who that consists of, but more importantly, so the role of this consulting team is to assist us with integrating Senate Bill 406 into our plans, nothing else about our planning process.
Correct.
Okay. So the first answer, the first question, your consulting team consists of?
So there are 3 consulting teams that are helping us countywide, that are part of allocation of various technical assistance grants from DLCD. So Cascadia Partners, 3J Consulting, and the last one just escaped my mind. But if you recall, Guy, we used Angelo Planning for the code modernization work we did in 2015. They have morphed into 3J Consulting. And so that is the firm that will primarily be assisting me in updating community plans and implementation of 406.
And
So
the focus
that is,
the focus is only 406. And I think there was some confusion with this.
Yeah, so they are helping us with integration of 406, which ultimately will result in some community plan updates, comp plan updates potentially, and then obviously the implementing ordinances. So they are merged together. There's work we will do independent of the consulting team, but yes, this work I think is going to be heavily embedded in the work that we're doing with overall community plan updates.
Well, it has to be. I mean, it's gonna
Yeah.
impact, especially when our land use ordinances and things.
Mhm.
So,
So, and the work that is coming out of that does not require a Measure 56 notice because it was signed by the governor. It's mandated. But there may be other things we do as part of the community plan update process that will require a Measure 56 notice. Like if we decide to make other changes to the implementing ordinances. So that's why too, the integration is important. But that, so you have me for all of it. And then the consulting team will assist me in assisting you in the 406 updates.
and maybe one quick, more focused question. Do you think, looking ahead, do you think the changes in 406 that are required by 406 may impact our coastal hazard overlay zone?
No, I think that will stay how it is and where it is. I don't expect anything to be modified there because that is a separate overlay zone, right? It's just like the flood hazard overlay zone or the beach and
Right.
dune overlay zone. You still have to comply. The standards and requirements in those overlay zones will still interface with what we're doing.
Thank you.
Yep. So, yeah, and so I expect that to be part of the conversation with the community is what does this also mean in relation to the community plan update? So we will walk everyone through that because I'm sure there's a lot of conversations community-wide swirling around that, as well as infrastructure and some other things. So we will be
So just-
prepared to visit about all of that.
So I think just, I think we have an executive committee meeting tomorrow, Sarah. And I think this is a good thing. Your question about, hybrid and when, it's a good thing for us to talk about tomorrow night. So can we
Yeah.
talk about this tomorrow night and then we'll get back to you?
Absolutely, yes. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep working on my schedule.
Okay.
And yeah, and I can basically, the consultants will appear virtually no matter what. 'Cause I have a budget, so I'm trying to really, maximize, dollars where we can versus if they can show up virtually. So they will be virtual no matter what. I
Okay.
can do a hybrid meeting anywhere I have Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So if you want a hybrid format, we can build that in, no problem.
Okay. All right. And you said again in the next couple of months.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I would like to have all the kickoff meetings with all of the unincorporated communities and cities. I'd like to get them done in the next 2 months.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I think we should probably discuss hybrid or not hybrid at the next general meeting.
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
think there's a lot of opinions there.
There's a lot. Sorry,
Of
Jeff.
opinions there about like
Okay.
the difference of pure virtual and hybrids.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Mark, I'll get back to you. We can compare notes after we both have our meetings and see where we land.
Okay. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sarah,
Yes, ma'am.
separate but related, and before I forget, I was wondering if it's at all possible for everyone on our committee to get, and others may have it, but I've tried downloading it and printing it, and I just can't. I don't know why it won't go through and print, but I just need a hard copy of our last community plan in NESCO. I can
sure.
do a lot of this. I can do a lot of editing, writing, etc. But it's very hard to not have a hard copy, and I haven't been able to print it on my printer.
So Tom provided a copy in Microsoft Word, and I sent it to you
Yep.
along with the other plan. You can't
Yep.
print that?
Nope. And it could be me. I'm more than willing to admit that. It could be my printer, which is, not as new as it should be. I took it to the Xerox store and we couldn't do it together. So I
Oh.
brought it in, and I don't know what happened, but if I could just get one, I won't ask for another. I just,
No, totally fine. So anybody who wants a hard copy, if you email me the address you want it sent to, Lynn and I will work together to get those out to you.
yay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. absolutely.
I
Thank you
think
for
I have
asking that, Lynn.
one of the original plans
Ooh,
somewhere in my office here. I could go try to dig that up. And I'm more than willing to give it to Lynn just to get it out of there. Probably one of the piles around here.
welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
Hi, Tom.
I'm a little bit concerned that weren't able to access the Word file. Were you able to open it?
I was.
I was.
Okay.
Lynn, you could open it, but you just couldn't print it.
Yeah, I can open it. I can't print it.
Okay.
I don't know how I would prevent that.
Yeah, it could be a printer issue.
Maybe there's like weird special characters, but did you try printing the PDF?
Yes. And
That's-
but the guy at FedEx had all kinds of interesting theories, but I just, at the end of the day, I just thought that's
were-
all the only thing I'm going to ask for in paper, but that's what I'd
Okay.
like. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So Sarah, are you sticking around for this meeting or do you have to leave? Okay. Well, I may have a question by the end of the meeting. And
Sure.
so if you were going to leave, let
Yeah.
me know.
Nope. I am here. I am gonna turn my camera off and listen, but
Okay.
I am here if you need anything.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff, where are we in our various?
So the next is the Cascadia Hub discussion.
Okay, I think it can be brief.
Well, and Sarah, maybe you can, there you go. So, and I don't know, I'm going to guess maybe you've been listening into some of these webinars, but Rand and I have been periodically listening in on the webinars from the Cascadia Hub group, Peter Rogerio's group that he has from, UC Santa Cruz all the way up to UW, all the universities who have come together to look at Northwest coastal resilience and community resilience. And I think it was, I can't remember, following one of the presentations, may have been the most recent one. Rand and I were discussing and looking through their literature. Is there anything, they describe themselves as a resource to communities, coastal communities, and in planning and preparation. So we thought, well, are we an opportunity in terms of where our process is and what we're beginning? And is there something they could add to what we're doing in terms of our vision, our philosophy? I go back to the philosophy that we had as the Neskowin Coastal Adaptation Plan, the whole idea of adaptation as an overall philosophy for our community. In terms of resilience, are there things that have happened in the since we did that plan in 2014? So in the last 10 years, are there other things out there that we as a community could be looking to adapt or to adopt or to make changes in terms of our land use or whatever? So we had a conversation the other day, Rand and I, with Peter and the new PAC worker in Alicia
Okay.
and Alessandra. And so we just had a talk in general about, mostly with Rand and I describing the process that we're in community planning process. And so they're taking that and thinking about the resources they have, the people who are doing particular research who may want to incorporate Neskowin into their research process as we've had before. It's a good connection that even the follow-up of the hazard thing, we worked with the Princeton architectural group and Rand has continued that relationship. And so I think especially the Oregon State people, are quite appreciative of that. So anyways, a lot of good connections, and we're just, we put it out there. We just wanted to let the committee know that we had a conversation with them. We don't know where it's going to lead. They're going to get back to us, and maybe at some point, if we feel that it's something of value that we'll bring to this committee and have and to listen to whatever potential that they have for helping us.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, coastal resiliency is part of planning, right?
Right.
I just would say if anything comes out of that could result in prohibitions things like additional measure, 49 claims, various things.
Yeah.
I need to have a heads up because if the commissioners are concerned about that, then we need to know that rather than getting to the end of the process.
And
I think
nothing, Sarah, nothing
Yeah.
is going to result in proposals. I mean, things are gonna come through this committee, come
Yeah.
through the whole CAC. You're the one that's gonna bring it to the county.
Right.
We're not gonna
But-
bring any Measure 49 things.
Yeah, because that's
that
where
are
this.
outside the boundaries. And I know that the
Mhm.
county, to its credit, has defended the whole hazards overlay zone
Yes,
and much appreciative.
and
of
continues
that.
to
And
do
so
so.
we don't want to keep
Right.
And I brought that up actually to Peter again. I said, we've successfully defended what we've done.
Yes.
But we don't want to test the limits either. So
So the
Well,
main,
it's just, it's, and that is still ongoing. I mean, there are still properties in the area that are challenging those actions in one way or another.
yeah.
And so I would say, policies, definitely policies that would alter or reduce existing property rights, we definitely need to have a conversation.
Oh, exactly. No, I mean, no one disagrees there.
Okay, thank you. Yep, perfect. No, I think that's a wonderful idea. Nescoen's always been, the front runner for some of this work, and it's resulted in great things across the state as a result. And
Right.
I'm proud that the county supported that and defended that. So yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
yeah,
Thanks.
so the
Any
value,
questions?
the value
Lynn?
I saw in it, Guy, were the possibility of clarifying what, for the audience who's listening to the formation of the community plan to understand the implications of both tsunamis and rising sea level on the existence of the village itself, and what things should be considered given that reality, and that hearing it from other voices than inside our own community and clarifying some of the real hazards ahead might sober people up about having a place down here at the beach and shake things up a little bit. So anyway, that's an ongoing relationship we'll learn more about and see if they have someone to help us in fitting this into the community plan wherever that seems appropriate. Okay.
And I think one of the things we want to be clear to do as well, and Sarah, I know you guys come across this all the time, but the state has a very large infrastructure built around, are we calling earthquakes resilience now, or what? I may not be up on the current jargon, but
No, that's right.
effectively on earthquakes. And a lot of kind of protocols, a huge investment has been made in Oregon. Many say more needs to be done, and of course that's always true. But in earthquake preparedness, resilience, and particularly the coast. So particularly the coast is its own very special place if there is a large event. So we want to be sure that we're working with the expertise LCDC already has on that, as well as it's not all under LCDC, of course. The rest of it is under the Emergency Department of the state of Oregon, but it's very sophisticated, it's very detailed, and it's what the governor and everyone who's in charge if there's an earthquake will follow. So that's I'm just, as I get older, it's more and more important to me that we integrate efforts and not run parallel. And I think we want to hear from those people as well, because they spend every day trying to make sure that we have the highest level of readiness we can have. So just to
Okay.
put that in.
Well, and Lynn, you may not know this, but when we did the coastal hazard overlay zone and the whole adaptation plan, we did it with DLCD. It was a DLCD program. It was climate ready communities.
Yes.
Draw a blank that came out in 2009.
Yes.
And Nescoen decided to be that under DLCD. DLCD helped us write these plans that we currently have.
Yep.
And it also with the support of Dugami and OSU and Oregon Sea Grant. Oregon Sea Grant actually facilitated it, and one of the people we talked with the other day was Oregon Sea Grant, and so it's a very integrated. We wouldn't step outside the line, and
Right,
we
no,
understand and support the role of DLCD in this.
absolutely. DLCD is not the only one, though. I mean, they have
Yeah.
a piece of the puzzle, but the emergency management team has an even bigger piece of the puzzle with a different focus and requirements. And so it's the cross discipline integration that seems most critical, because it does go beyond DLCD. They, I know they all say they work together and they all try really hard, but at the end of the day, there's a bunch of people who are in charge when the rubber hits the road, and it's not DLCD.
We need
Okay,
to we need to kind of make a mental note of that, or even a written note that emergency management, state emergency management, we have not really worked with them in Nescoin. I mean, other than brought in the county emergency services folks and the things that we've done here locally with the county. We've not worked. I don't know. Sarah would know. Barbara, I think I see Barbara's on this. She may know more. If the work of the local emergency management group is tied and works with the state, I don't know. But if not, I agree, Lynn, that's a group I've not worked with at all. So
They're
okay.
impressive.
So, I think the next item might be Lynn's questions or proposals about getting going on this.
Yeah, and just for
The
Tom
actual
Sykes'
work.
benefit, at Lynn's suggestion, we reversed the order of the agenda, and the committee is going to talk about their thoughts about the document, and then we will have the discussion with Tom about his ideas about how to structure a good document.
Right,
No worries. I'm glad to be a part of it.
okay.
So I'm going to be very concise because I did my homework. Here it is. I have multiple pages. I don't know if we're giving grades today, but I went back to our October 14th notes. I keep notes of these meetings and kind of focused on what Sarah had told us we are to get done and when we are to get it done. And so Sarah's number one was, this isn't a rewrite, it's an update to an existing plan. It needs, the plan update itself is for land in the community boundary, the properties in the community boundary, that's our scope of focus. And that Senate Bill 406 is part of this, which I did not include in my notes on that day, that the consultant was a 204 consultant. And I think that we had some confusion around that. I'm glad we've cleared that up today. And then also that we have to get this done by 2024, which it now is, and the clock's ticking. So with that in mind, I went back with the community plan, the previous one, on my laptop and a pad of paper in front of me, and went through line by line. And as I was going through it, I was very mindful of our discussion about format, because as I read it, I thought, this is not a user-friendly format, and it's 45 pages long. And yet it has some critical information that we're required to have by the state requirements. And there's some whole sections of it that, on my list of things to look at, some of them may not need, some of them may be exactly the same now as they were then, some are not, and we have to sort that out. But what I basically came up with was, is there any way that we could make this document a tool for action? And the three things I came up with is, number one, an executive summary that's no more than 2 pages long and is on the front of the document ahead of everything. Number two was, it's not clear from reading the community plan who, what, when, where, why, and how, the basic journalistic requirements of educating people. You can get there, you can find all those things, but it's not clear. And I think part of what we're going to talk about next talks about how do we get those very basic things in front of our audience. But it's important to me that we do that, because we often enter this discussion in the middle of a conversation, assuming everyone knows what a community plan is and purpose, et cetera. And we're not going to get an embracement of this document if it's not a little easier to find the basics and what it's about. The history I just thought was hysterical because, you know, I kept thinking, what possessed us to spend this much time on the history? And I mean, it's interesting. It can be an addendum. I get all that, but I think it's a little precious in that it acts like, I mean, some of us think Nesco Inn is pretty wonderful, but in any event, I think we have to ask ourselves, how important is that? And we've already talked about that previously. But basically what I wanted to suggest is that and this is why I asked for a hard copy, is I started typing out, here's a better format for all this to get people to use it and want to use it. I mean, if we could have the who, what, where, when, why, and how, and the executive summary, and the whole thing's no longer than 7 pages, even if we do great detail in the back on all those elements, but if I could say in one sentence, here's why, here's who, here's what, here's how, it would get us a long way. So I guess where I came up with that is, why I'm bringing that up today is, I think it's really important. And when we had our meeting the last time, Rand, where you wanted to divide people into groups, I almost thought if we had, it helped me clarify, if we had in hand an outline of the document based on what Sarah told us to do on October 14th, which is, you know, what we're required to do and what we're, you know, I think we can identify what we're required and not required to do. And we had an outline that was concise and simple. Then we could divide into group and volunteer for different chunks of the outline. Some people might want to take on the why or the how or however we organize that table of contents. But to me, it's almost like it's not just the whole narrative we want to discuss. We want to discuss what is the table of contents and how do we make it effective in getting people to read it who are going to spend about 20 minutes. And Guy, one of the first things, and the thing that got me really focused on this as I was rereading it and going through everything, is your point. The rubber meets the road in the zoning ordinances, right? Most people's experience with zoning ordinances is when they're trying to do or not do something. And then
Like
they go,
build a garage.
yeah, they're trying to put a garage on, you know, so how about if we just kind of make it simple, and then the rest of the document can be, you know, another 30 pages or whatever we think merits it. But dividing into our work groups would be helpful to have evolve around a table of contents as opposed to discrete tasks. And my takeaway from reading the old plan is that if we as a group came up with what that table of contents needs to say, or not say, you know, let's take history out of this, we'll make it an addendum, let's make this an addendum, the stuff we're going to throw, let's make some of the geological terms that no one's ever going to read, that's in the addendum. If we could spend some time talking about that, then I think the discussion we're about to have about how do we do that really well is invaluable. We do not want this to be an academic product. And you know, I'm on the board of trustees of Willamette University. I'm a big fan of academia and education and everything else. It's not our job to educate people on that level. And we will not be successful if we don't take a more simple approach than a report. It's a community plan. It should even, in my mind, have some pictures and some numbers and less narrative. But I think that the two things that are key are that executive summary and the table of contents. And if we could just get those two kind of honed down, I think we'd have your work groups ran, and I think we could start dividing ourselves up and taking what currently exists and saying, let's just get rid of that. Let's add this. Let's, you know, then all this next discussion we're going to have really comes into play. So that's my point, and I tried to make it as concise as I could.
Thank you, Lynn. Ah,
My comment, Lynn,
I-
to that
go
is,
ahead.
Rand, was kind of weird. Do you want to say something, Rand?
No, go ahead.
Well, I fully agree with your approach, Lynn, and I would probably toss 50% of the current plan out of the plan, just in terms of the language. I think part of it was where the community was at the time, where the committee was at the time. There was a lot of kind of qualitative responses rather than anything quantitative. But regardless, so I agree with the approach. What I find in what Tom did, and when I went over the document that Rand sent out, that Tom's suggested outline, that's what that outline did for me. It's exactly
Yeah.
what you just described, is that it organized it, it simplified it, it put it in action terms. We can have a vision, we can have a goal, we can have a result. What's the action that's going to follow that goal? What are we going to do about this? I found that Tom's, and he can speak for himself, but there are some things in Tom's thing that I didn't either understand or don't think fit, but in general, it treated it like a real plan, rather than a descriptive document of what Nescoin is.
Right.
And that's where I think we have to get to. I
Yep.
fully agree. And so I think there's actually a coming together of exactly what you just said, Lynn. And I find myself totally agreeing with you. And I see Tom's structure as helping us get there, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, I agree with what Lynn was saying, but as she was saying it, I saw a lot of that in Tom's plans. So
Yes.
I think that those are an updating of the perspective that we have on going into this, where we want to make it more clear and actionable. And so I'd like to keep what you just said in mind and go through the other document with Tom, and then we can see which places we can even edit within that outline or not as we go through it. But I do see it as an extremely helpful approach that indicates more actions to be done and the reasoning behind it. So I'd like to move to, and Tom's been here for your comments. So I'm sure those may color his comments on his presentation of what he's given us. So I'd like to turn it over to Tom and give him the opportunity to walk through the document with us.
Well, listening to Lynn, I'm not sure you need me.
No, I know. We want to know, more clarity besides the outline, which is pretty self-explanatory, but.
Hey, Tom, before you start, would you just give your general impression of the current plan, when you first went through it? What was your first impression?
Well, my first impression, and I'm trying to get my video started again, but apparently it doesn't want to start. So you'll have to look at my name instead. My first impression was, that's not an executive summary.
Yeah.
And many of the things that Lynn said I thought, well, see, that's interesting. Does that belong in a plan? That's what has been historically very interesting. It's not an action plan. And to me, a community plan would be a set of goals, or vision, goals, and the way you're going to achieve those goals. Which is, I believe, just exactly what you're close enough to what you said, Lynn. There's a lot of things that are very interesting, and I think could even be argued to be in a separate document. And in terms of being a rewrite versus being a update, I think it's got to be a rewrite. I don't think it's really readable. Who is our audience? I mean, that's the first question we have to ask. Who is our audience? Now, our audience is really two groups. One is the people in the county who are going to make decisions, and the other one is our members who are going to either buy or not buy what this committee says. So keeping in mind those two audiences, I think I'm not including myself, need to tailor it to those questions. And I think the way Lynn outlined it is, that's the way to proceed.
And Tom, do you agree that it's not really our members, it's the people in the community need to be able to read it? So that would include the Hot Creek Cafe, the renters, the people in Nescoin need to understand what the community is trying to plan for and attain.
Well, let me answer that by saying, and trying to get my video going again. I'm using members as it's now defined in the bylaws, which does include those people. And I shouldn't have said members. I should members as in capital M. But members of the community are really appropriate, even if they don't choose not to be active in the NCC.
Right.
That everybody who lives in or near here.
Thank you.
Yes, I had some education this last week, so. But anyway, anybody who lives in or near needs to have an understanding what's being proposed and a voice in it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that part of the challenge of this is if someone's only going to take 20 minutes to try and understand what we're doing, they're not going to be helpful. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. So the other thing, I mean, so when you talk about your audience, which I think is an important part of the conversation, there's two other audiences that need to be considered. So the first one are planning staff. This is our document that we use for administration of regulations in the community. The second is that when you look at some of the criteria that become the basis of a decision by either myself, the Planning Commission, or the board, what it talks about is applicable goals and policies of the comprehensive plan.
Yep.
This community plan gets embedded into that. So the thing that I hear more often than not, and I think Guy can speak to this too, is, well, their proposal isn't consistent with the community plan. It doesn't meet our village-like character. What does that mean? And then everybody walks away unhappy because it's not there. So for the audience of this document, in some instances, becomes the basis for a decision in some land use processes, not all, but it has to work for us too. So those policies must be clear and concise and then executed through zoning ordinances.
I am guilty of saying it's us and you guys.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just,
but it's important to know that there are three different audiences, what I lumped as county. And if you could write down their characters, their careabouts, then we can make sure that we address the careabouts in the document.
Absolutely. And Tom, part of what my role is too, is to make sure as you guys are kicking around language proposals, the first thing I'm thinking about is, how does this work then in a land use review process? Can I work with this? Is this clear enough so decision makers aren't going to struggle? Or is it clear enough so the community can form a reasonable expectation of how it's going to be administered?
Yeah.
So yes, so we will work on all of that together. Thank you.
Okay, I think that would be very helpful in constructing the right document.
One of the things that And I absolutely agree with Sarah, because we, during the land use process for their approvals or whatever, certainly at the planning commission, the community plan is often referenced. Interestingly enough, it's the community plan is often the source of the local community, members of the local community objecting to a particular land use that's being proposed. So you find community members saying, well, our community plan says this, and Sarah's infamous one is it interferes with our village feel, our whatever, the feel. It's always a feel is one of the words that it's always in there, but they'll bring that forward. So it's the language in these plans are used by members of the community to come forward to object maybe to a particular development. So just to let you know that there's two ways that works, not just the planning staff and others reviewing the community plan, but also the community itself using the community plan in the process.
And even something like when you say this, or when you mean this, you should say this. The village feel, how can we translate that into something that's actionable?
Exactly.
If you figure that out, Tom, you get the gold star.
Well, the example that's always given, all across state in different settings, because village feel is not just unique to Nesco, is you can't have a McDonald's there. And that's not an original in Saxton. That's just what I've heard hundreds of times.
It is. And that's why your commercial zone doesn't allow drive-throughs in an eating and drinking establishment. That's a great, thank you, Lynn. That's a great example of how that actually was addressed.
Yep.
In your implementing zoning regulation for your commercial zone.
Well, you didn't know that, Lynn. So you were.
But that's actually what we use as the example. Yes.
Amazing. And I, probably we need to update the example as Starbucks or something. I mean, I don't know, but I know that's anyway. So good. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think we can run with the document and fine tune it or expand it as we need to, but I think between Lynn's comments and Tom's agreement that those were kind of critical parts of how we built this, I think it can be useful to us as a way to move forward and actually do something. Wouldn't that be exciting to actually use our homework and start the teams to build this new document?
Can I propose, Rand, that for next time, or I'm guessing next time, is that one or two of us, I guess two would be good, to go through the current document, pull out stuff that just propose, kind of a general organization of the current document, but pull out stuff that we don't think is needed, like the history. And I agree that if I were doing this, I'd put the history. And even though I just asked the question the other day, where the basalt in Nesco came from, what lava flow, we were debating that the other day, I'm willing to put the geology off, somewhere. But if we pulled things out that we don't think should be in there, something, let's say a team of us, we do that, the land use stuff is everywhere. I mean, it's like every other page has some land use thing on it. To bring all that stuff together, just kind of combine it, not yet edit it fully, but just organize it in a way that kind of, at least it's all in one place. And then bring it to the committee, and then we have a document at least roughly organized in a way. We can then kind of, and I'd like to go through Tom's thing to get more specific on this, but then to take it and hold it up to that document and start organizing the plan to what our outline, what we see as an outline. And maybe two people can work on the general reorganization of the current plan, and two people could work on an outline that we would hold up to it. And that way we could all bring those together next meeting, or
I think that's a great idea. And I think, you know, with my snazzy hard copy and my colored pencils, I'll do my, here's the table of contents and here's the way to I'll do both because it'll just be fun to do that. And I think if we all do that homework, whichever part of it we want, or you can assign us, Rand, we can do that too. We could easily do that by the next meeting, and that would be a really, you know, quick way to get going and get into more production.
So
If
Tom,
I
is
can,
that,
if I can
Yeah.
add, the easiest thing looking at the document as a whole is any section that has the word policy in it. Basically, that's setting your goals. So all those sections, I think it's 4 and 5, or I didn't have them committed to memory, but anyway, there are certain sections that have lots of policy things. Anything that doesn't have a policy doesn't really have a plan. That's my recollection of it.
Hmm,
So that should be fairly easy to pick out.
some quick editing there, yeah. Well, given that we have 2 advocates for this development of homework for next time who agreed, and they're the only 2 here besides me, I would say that Guy and Lynn have a homework assignment. And that would be to, well, for one, just search for policy, and anything you find policy in should probably be set aside to review to see, you know, in one group. And I guess Lori and I would be kind of going through anything that doesn't have policy in it and sorting out whether that seems essential based on the outline that Tom gave us. I'm of course one of the people who likes the other stuff to give it a context into which life exists. And that's stuff everyone wants to get rid of. So
not get rid of, Rand. I just
I
think
know, but put in a
Organize.
place where
Yeah.
you can look for it if you want. I get that.
It
Appendix
needs to be accessible, I think, but not necessarily there.
front and center, right?
What if let me propose this, and Lynn, what if I went through the document, kind of ripped it apart, pieced it together, and at least in clumps that are, for lack of a better term, area clumps, separated those out, sent that to you. You're going to think of an outline. You'll see what I think are the current clumps. You could put an outline to it and also add things in your outline that you see. And then we could just trade back and forth so that in a couple of weeks, we'd have a document that we could, a draft document that we say, here's an outline, a rough outline. Here are the clumps of the current plan that may go in those sections of the outline. Does that make sense?
Yep. And I'm happy to do that. I think it'll work well. And I'm going to have a real focus on readability and conciseness. And the document, as far as I'm concerned, could be 200 pages long. Sarah's going to kick me under the table, the virtual table. It could be 200 pages long, but it has to have like 15 pages or whatever it is that people can read who've never heard of land use, who, you know, love Nesco Inn and want to just have a minute in their day to look at if the values are correctly stated, et cetera. So we can have both documents, but I do think having something that is accessible. One of the things, you know, I'll just tell you, one of the things that is troubling is in the current world is we're producing volumes of documents and we're getting so many things wrong, right? Not the county. I'm not pointing at the county, but you know, we've got all kinds of stuff going on where we've got these huge volumes of this is how it should be, and it's miles from where we are. And I think it's my age that makes me want us to get closer between the documents and where we are. You know, and I will say that even though that last document is kind of out of style and out of date and didn't get everything we want to do, if you ask me whether Nescoan looks as good, you know, 40 years later, actually for me, it's 66 years later than my first time there. I think one of the successes of Nescoan is that it looks as good as it does and feels as good as it does. Doesn't mean it's perfect, nothing is, but we have not lost the values of Nescoan that existed 60 years ago, i.e. you should be able to ride your bike down the street. Very simple. Plain
Kids
and
play in
simple.
the street.
Kids play in the street. And the fact that we've kept that is in part because we tried so hard to describe kind of that value.
Yeah.
And we
If
have a lot more diversity, for example, than many other Oregon Beach, you know, I mean, we're much less homogeneous than Gerhardt, for example. I mean, we have more access. So, and I can't speak to Seaside and Cannon Beach. I just don't know their data. But in any event, I'm not saying we've got it all right, but there has been some value to what we've done because Nescoan has a character that is still as friendly as it was 60 some odd years ago.
Tom?
Great.
I just wanted to mention that if you decide that you want to take the document apart, which is part of my recommendation, you should think about noting where those things were in the original document at least once. We found it to be very useful in the bylaws subcommittee because that way we could have some traceability. You know, nothing got dropped. Maybe
So
it's
how do you
not
do
as
that,
important.
Tom? What did you do? So would you take the current document, number and letter it? I mean, put some kind of a structure to it.
Yeah.
And then when you move it, say this is 1A or 1B being, you know, from the old document to the new document.
Yeah. So what I did was every heading that was already there, and I don't think you really probably need to go any deeper than that, is I
Okay.
put a bracket, the number that is currently there, and then do your rearrangements and renumber it. But you can tell what this used to be. This used to be section 4.1.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
that may not be as
maybe
neat
not
and tidy with the community plan as it is with the bylaws.
Yeah, I did
But
try to say that at the beginning. This may not be as important as it was for us in the bylaws subcommittee.
but maybe like part of like something that comes out of this homework that you're talking about doing is that you identify bits that you think that you want to keep, and at some point in the process you're going to produce a document that has the old bylaws or the old community plan with like highlights and numbers. It's like these things we kept, and this is how they get translated to the new.
Yeah. With the bylaws
it's-
committee,
when the rubber hits the road, we're going to want a lot of that where for the odd people, the small number of people that are really interested, like Tom Prohodich might be one, that really want to kind of see like continuity between the old community plan and the new one, and understand what got lost, what got taken out, and what got put in, and what got kept. Especially if the text is basically going to be rewritten, that kind of thing is good documentation that will give you credibility, so that people know that you are doing your jobs and doing the homework and documenting what you've done. So
Good
I think
steward.
it's a good point.
what I'm suggesting though is to do that, read that, carry over the numbering till you get a baseline to where you're comfortable with. From here, we can do the development. And at that point, you can show the connection and then drop the previous, because they're going to become meaningless, especially as you move paragraphs around, which you
Right.
may do. You're not going to want to maintain that, but it's just the transition between the wholesale change and the new document, just to make sure nothing gets lost.
Got it.
Well, and we want to be really careful. This isn't the final edit. This is I like the clumps
course not.
language.
Yeah.
Do clumps, because we haven't listened, we've done the 2 years of hearing, some of us has, but we have to listen to people, and we don't
Yeah.
want to present a fait accompli.
I
Right.
just can't, when I look at the current document, it's even hard for me to think how you could possibly edit this. I'm
Well,
with Tom. I mean, I've just got to totally redo the whole thing and reorganize it in ways that,
Reorganize rather than rewrite, though.
Right, reorganize is a good approach. The other thing is, Lynn, if you want to put some time together, even just for you and I for content with consistency, like in format with the comp plan or other things, or if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We can set up a time to talk to you.
Okay, I think we've got to let us do some more work on our side, Sarah, and then we can
Sure.
certainly do that. But
Mhm.
I think I like Guy's approach of clumps and a table of contents and rough, and
Yeah.
And remember, when you do these kinds of things, and it's important to have that mapping to this is what went out or went in the back,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear someone say, well, how dare you talk about this? Why are we here with the history is critical. This is one of the most cherished places on the Oregon coast. So
So I'm probably going to be taking those sections on with the same approach, just to understand that the narrative is ensconced in this community. So it has a context, but and so that'll be my challenge, to not overdo that, but to have a presence, a people presence besides a regulatory presence.
Yep.
And I would offer to Tom's point about the vision goals, vision, values, goals, how to achieve them. I think that's where the questionnaire is also going to come in. I think we're going to get a lot of information that can serve as the basis to put that together.
Right. And I think it would be easier to draw up the questionnaire once we get a rough draft.
Yep.
And we're going to find ourselves looking at a section or clump or whatever and saying, okay, I may think this about it, you may think that, but what's the community think? And it leads to a question that we'll ask the community on. So it'll help us inform the next, the first draft, really. So.
Okay, good. All right, well, this is very productive, and I really appreciate both Lynn's comments, Tom's outline, and Guy's got an approach also, clumping.
Yeah, Tom, it was really helpful to see your, and I'm sure we're going to want you back.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
really great.
Be sure and send me a tickler if you want me to talk, because I forgot.
Okay, yeah, Jeff realized that some of us are keyed to his prompts. We need those prompts. I mean, I was ready, but yeah. Just to get the link right in front of you, so you can tap in here. Okay, well, are we okay with what we just went through for clear enough to have assignments to move
Yeah.
towards the next meeting?
Yeah.
I think so. I did want to say, on this hybrid thing for the meeting with the consultants, the 204 discussion, which is really important to me to understand, because I'm not
Is
conversant.
that 406? Are you talking about 406?
Excuse me,
She's talking
406.
about 406.
Yes.
All right, I was tracking, Lynn.
Did
I
you
was
say
tracking.
have the same problem in grade school? There's
Yeah.
the word
So-
for that. Man.
I just want to be sure that we do that so that, because I'm having my second hip replacement sometime in the next 6 weeks or so.
Oh, geez.
And so
yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm thrilled, but I want to be able to listen to that. And I know, so even if we don't do hybrid where it's audio capable, then we need a video or whatever the modern equivalent is, a tape of it, because I need to get that in my head.
Yeah.
I would use the same equipment I have for planning commission hearings and others. So it would be Teams. Yes, you would see everything, and we'll throw up the recording when it's done.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Jeff?
Okay. So the next item we're actually doing really well on time. the next item on the agenda is prepare for the executive meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and give a preamble here, which is I am going to put my officer hat on and give you a preview of what's coming up at the executive meeting. I would like to strongly urge you to start planning more than one meeting ahead. And in fact, plan your entire, like what are the steps between now and when you're going to have a finished document? Like when are you going to ask for input? Like when are you going to do the questionnaire? All that stuff.
Yep.
And so I'm going to advocate for putting that on the agenda for next time. And B, so the preparation for the executive meeting. So I'm going to go through so at least one of you should attend. I would recommend that it would be good if 2 or 3 of you would, because I think we would like to spend a few minutes, probably not too many, talking about like, hey, we the officers represent, like acting as the representatives of the NCAC membership. What do we want to see from you about how you're going to kind of be accountable to the whole NCAC about like going through your process and being transparent? And since we haven't had a lot of time to prepare that, like the more of you show up to have the conversation, the better you're going to be represented on the committee. So
That's tomorrow,
that's tomorrow at 7.
Yeah.
7. Now I have a watershed council board.
Okay.
Well, I'll be there.
Rand will be there.
At the watershed council?
No,
Oh,
Rand will be at the executive committee meeting.
I'm assuming I don't need to be. Is that correct?
You don't need to be. The same applies to the bylaws committee that Nancy needs to be there and kind of represent, but if it wouldn't hurt if you were there.
Okay.
But I did like it, like if you have a conflict. So Rand will be there. Lynn, you haven't said yay or nay, but
you said it's 7 o'clock tomorrow evening?
yeah.
And what time estimate would we be on the agenda?
Let's see. So where is that agenda? That's not it. Here we go. So it's currently on about 50 minutes. Like if we keep to the schedule, it will be about 35 minutes in, but I don't know that we're going to keep to the schedule, but.
So if you can send me a meeting invite, Rand, I can't commit yet. I can try to be there. I won't know till tomorrow. So if you can send me the meeting invite, and if I can be there, otherwise I think, Rand, we've had a really good meeting today about, we don't have the specific dates of when we're going to have deliverables, but it's only January and we're going to have clumps and contents.
Yeah.
So I have 2 placeholder questions here on the agenda, and I think we don't have the answers, so we want to talk, or I want you, the committee, to talk about, well, what's Rand going to say about when we're going to have these answers? And one is, do you need anything from the officers? Which means, like, do you need to schedule meetings? And I have been coming to your meetings. I know that you're not ready for that, but that's like probably once a month we're going to have this conversation. Like, do you need help from the officers to schedule meetings with the general membership, things like that? Do you need email blasts to go out? But like these are all the coordinating things that going forward you're going to talk to the executive board meetings are going to be the venue for this committee to ask for help from the officers with things like that.
So here's a question for all of us to think about. One of the things that would be great is if we thought about, if we had a ballpark of when we're expecting to start meetings, and I don't know if you all have thought about that, or if you have a sense of from previous meetings, the best times to do it. I'm not big on meetings in July and August because I think you get only certain people, and I'm not big on meetings in snowstorms because I know you only get certain people. But if we could kind of come up with a framework that we think works for a deliverable this year, maybe we should do that.
And inspired by what you just said, Lynn, maybe NCA meetings, like maybe we can ask for time at NCA meetings or something. I don't know.
Well, I think we should be on the agenda of every NCA meeting.
Yeah, I think that people need a report.
They need a report from our committee at every meeting. That's
Yeah.
a given. I think in
Um,
terms of us wanting, to get some broader feedback other than a report, and having people just say a few things. If we needed a half an hour or more, an hour even, that's another thing. I was
Well,
jealous when I attended the bylaws committee. Was it Saturday, or I can't even remember when it was?
Friday.
And Tom and the structure they have, they'll have, here's each section of the bylaws, here's the priority we give it to do, here's the time frame we're going to do it within, I mean, it was wonderful, laid out, exactly, priority of the timeline, when it's going to be done, who's responsible. I mean, that was great. And I was like jealous, thinking, is that possible for us to do the plan?
It is. We could do that.
Oh,
I think we're going to have to do it at some point because we
we're
got
gonna have to at some point. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
I mean, if you want, I'll take a stab at just the best way to do that is throw something on the wall and let everyone criticize it and mold it into something workable. But I think we could do that. There's only 12 months in the year, and summer's not the best time to do heavy lifting. So because it's so short in Oregon.
Would you send us, or I guess you could send it, you don't have our emails, but send it to Rand, or Rand may already have it. That spreadsheet, for lack of a better term, it's not a numerical spreadsheet, but because it's a Word doc, I think, or something. But could you send that to us just so we can see what you did for the bylaws committee?
So the key to creating that matrix was that we had things lumped. So we were where you are before we had things reorganized. Once we got them organized and lumpy, then we could assign lumps.
It's the clump calendar.
It's a clump. I think it's only a matter of one letter, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the clumps, that's a different definition.
No, wait. C. This needs to add a C. So,
but yeah, I'll certainly do that.
I'll share that once Tom. Tom has to send it to me. I think I took a picture of it at the meeting, but that's not necessarily.
I can actually send you a link, and you can share the link rather than sharing the document.
Okay.
Well, if you put it in the chat. Why don't you put it in the chat, Tom?
Oh, right.
Okay. Fair enough. I can do that.
Yeah, I think that this is a critical meeting, and the homework is really critical to get us actually up out of the water and able to see further ahead. It's been a lot of back and forth about how to even function so far. So now that we're getting closer to being functional and getting into clumping, clumping is becoming the key to everything. And that will really help us, I think, in presenting, getting a better idea how we can move forward and the progress that we're making.
Yeah.
So I'm happy I had about 7 things to say at the meeting, which were we're also keeping our eye on what the bylaws committee is doing and trying to learn from their process and some of the things that they're making decisions upon. As local citizens, we can be engaged in fleshing out some of that information and being engaged. We'll have basically an outline of work at the next meeting, and we're assigning areas of work. We're working with the county for clarification with the new law, the SB, what'd we say, 406?
Yeah.
And then we're looking at how to develop the survey, and we believe it can come out of the work that we're doing now pretty naturally, and we're looking forward to creating the schedule for the public meetings. So those are kind of the things that I see that we could share with the community that will at least give them an idea where we are in our process, and then take some questions if they come up.
So did I hear you volunteer, Lynn, to try and come up with a roadmap or a larger plan for
I send us the thing that the bylaws
Yeah.
people have done to look at, and I'll come up with a rough draft of a timeline.
Sure.
And then we can move it from there, and we'll just,
Okay.
and so that I'm happy to, yes. Short
Okay.
answer, yes.
I will put that on the agenda for next time.
Great.
Where are we on our agenda, our current agenda?
What?
Where are we on our current agenda?
We're almost done. So I'm calling that the prep for executive meeting item is done, and then the last there's public comment. So if Tom or Barbara.
Well, Tom had a comment in the chat. I'd like him to, do you want to verbalize that?
I think I know the answer. I'll make this very short, which is almost impossible for me. Thank you all for your service. I think if you can use Tom, as I call him in this process, the most important Tom, and helping you structure a format. I've said at two of their meetings at two of the bylaws committee meetings that the level of transparency and detail is really fairly astonishing. And it's not, there's nothing that differentiates the committee members on this committee from the committee members on that committee, but Tom. And so use him if he'll be used. But thank you for today. It was educational.
Okay.
Okay, that link copy didn't work. Let me try it again. I was copying something else.
All right.
That one.
Yeah, the smart thing is a good thing too.
Okay, there we go. Ignore
Got it.
the other one.
Thank you. Lynn, do you see that in the chat? Do you have your chat open?
Yep. Got
Okay.
it.
Okay, cool. Barbara? Oh, you're
You're
muted,
muted.
Barbara.
I apologize for the delay in joining you. I had some computer problems in the beginning, which I am not accustomed to. I thought we had solved all those, but anyway, I'm delighted at the progress that you made today. It was a very productive meeting, and so I applaud you for that. The one thing that I know you'll all come to it at some point, but the 406 is breathing down the backs of your neck, that discussion. It'll be in 2 months' time. And so I would guess that some emphasis might be warranted on handling portions of the current community plan as it relates to those kinds of issues, because that's going to be the first thing I think that you'll take to the public. Do you have any comments on that?
Why do you think it'll be the first thing we have to take to the public, Barb?
Because the consultants are going to want to talk to you in 2 months' time.
Right. But we don't have, it's our plan, if we have a timetable of presenting something by January to the
February, probably.
county next January.
Oh,
We'd probably be going to the community sometime this fall. I wouldn't separate out 406 from any of the other changes we would have.
Well, doesn't 406 have like a particular deadline, like the end of this year or something?
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the missing information. I didn't hear that. Okay.
yeah. No, I think we should be able to tuck it in where it belongs in the plan, because there's definitely a place for housing and zoning and all the things that it will imply. And we're gonna have to integrate in. So
Right.
I think they're in the public meetings, we'll definitely have discussion about it, because people will be, who knows how they'll feel about it, but I mean, there'll be time for dialogue about that, but I don't think in this original, early organizing and starting to get the revisions put in place or an order to the document is critical. Those are obviously our priority now, and then as we see when meetings can occur, those, I think we'll take it in order of the table of contents and move through it in that way, but I haven't seen those things yet, so I may be speaking out of turn, but I think I'm reasonably comfortable that we can integrate it into what our overall goals without having to press too hard on that button. Yeah.
As long as you're comfortable with it, that's fine by me.
Well, I
I think it's
appreciate
gonna be-
your concern.
It's going to be curious, Barb. These consultants, especially the DLCD consultant, is going to come up with some very specific language that satisfies 406. And what I'm interested in is what latitude we have as a community with that recommended language and how it fits within our zone. I mean, again, Tillamook County is the only county that took the language of the state middle housing and applied it to unincorporated communities.
Right.
And so we're unique in that. And how much latitude, again, and can we shape that language and to fit our community of Nescoin and still meet the requirements of the Senate bill? So that'll be interesting to me to see how that works.
So how can you say with certainty that whatever they come up with and whatever you decide you want instead, that there will be agreement on that by the end of the year, unless you have a conversation with members of the community?
Well, we're going to have to. The
No,
community.
we'll have to do that.
Exactly. And so,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
why not make that a priority and
Yeah.
just get that off the table and move on to the next thing? I
think-
especially,
Okay.
I especially like the idea that would take some of the attention away from the STR issue, and it's another it's going to be another tough discussion that we're going to have to come to some agreement about, and why not put that front and center right away?
Barb, the thing that comes to mind right now is, the current plan, as you know, I've expressed this before, it talks about a vision for Nescoin that is of single family homes and whatever. It's not a resort community. In fact, it specifically says it's not a resort community. It's not a community that's in a sense that has a lot of business activity in it. And it may be, as we move forward and we look at 406, it may be important to put 406 within a context for Nescoin. So what is the vision for Nescoin moving forward? I mean, what are we going to propose? What's our committee going to propose as edits to those statements about the vision of Nescoin as a community of single family homes and whatever? And maybe we need to really focus on and find out from the community what their vision is of Nescoin is vis-a-vis what it was 24 years ago, before we start talking about what 406 could look like for us. I don't know. That's just a quick thought.
406 is motoring down the highway, and it's going to be here more quickly.
But it's already
It's already here. That's right.
It's law.
It just buzzed by,
Yeah.
and so putting it off, I think, is dangerous for the community. Having those
Yeah.
discussions sooner rather than later, it seems
And-
appropriate to me.
So here's my question is, and I'm a 406 novice. And in the summary, in the bill summary, it says allow middle housing on residentially zoned lands. And so we know what those lands currently are in Nescoin, right?
Right?
Well, there's four, there's
R1,
four residential
R3,
zones.
I think
Three
there
at
are
least.
4.
R1, R2.
I guess,
R3 and RR.
yes, but how much vacant land is there in Nescoin that falls into that category?
I mean, there's a bunch of vacant lots on South Beach Road, which happens to be
There
Florida.
are other developments that are not completed currently. So there is room. I thought at one point I heard that there was a 50-year, based on the growth of Nescoin in the past, there was something like a 50-year supply of lots that could be sold, and so there's more. There's more buildable land than you might think.
It must be, yeah, so it must be South Beach, but
Not exclusively.
No.
no, because, well, but again, I think what we get to ask the county is, and the consultant says, give us the map,
Uh-huh.
show us what you've got that meets this bill's requirements.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the question,
Sure.
is how much is it? And I also don't know what they mean. You guys probably do. I don't know what they mean by housing production strategies. What is it that Nescoin as an unincorporated area can do about housing production strategies?
I think that's probably things like prefab houses that formerly had been not recommended for certain communities.
Okay.
So that's one example. It's not the language that I speak, so I can't give you a
Yeah.
complete answer on that.
I don't know either. And
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
helpful
Mr. Planning
example.
Committee, yeah.
yeah,
But there will be some issues that will crop up sooner rather than later. That's just my
manufactured
opinion.
homes is what you see in a lot of zoning regulations, and Nescoin uses the term manufactured homes. And maybe that's what they're talking about, but I don't know.
Okay, well, anyway, they can give us the buildable lands, residential lands map. I don't have that. I
Oh,
haven't
Sarah,
seen it.
Sarah can do that with her GIS
Yeah.
system, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna need that.
And remember too, we got to incorporate Sahali, and Sahali is growing and proposing to grow more. So that's another buildable lands area for us.
Thank you.
Well,
Well,
it's,
Sorry to throw a monkey wrench in at this point, but.
It's-
it's
No,
just
no.
I'm
something
gonna
that-
put it on the calendar. I'm gonna build that into our draft timeline.
Yeah.
is Sahali within the current community boundary map?
I think it is. isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Oratown is in the current community map.
So,
Well, let's see. Okay, so
Yeah,
you mean
there's a service.
inside the community boundary? Actually, I don't think Sahali is.
yes, that's, I was actually joking, but
Oh,
because I don't think it is, and I don't think part of South Beach or all of South Beach is.
I think all of South Beach is.
It
No,
is.
there's a
It depends
spot-
on how you read the previous bylaws.
Well, no, this is the community boundary, which is the map. So
Oh, the community boundary, definitely, yes.
Have we been provided hard copies of the community map?
well, you don't want to yet, because it's,
That's a major
clear.
point of contention, or actually, I don't think it's a
But-
point of contention.
okay, yeah, the community map is not a point of contention and is basically unchangeable. The NCAC catchment area is a different boundary, and it's very confusing. And it's,
So
Right,
Jeff,
but-
on our website, on the NCAC website, you have maps, links to maps, right?
yep, yes,
And you have the community boundary map on there?
yes, we do.
Okay, I thought, for some reason, thought I'd seen it somewhere, so, and I
Yeah.
have an old hard copy, but it's very old. Okay.
But those are hard to change. In fact, it probably has never changed. So your old hard copy is probably accurate.
Yeah.
Accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember, yes, it's such a, we've got so many boundaries. We have a water district boundary, by the way, which includes the Halley.
Well, as you know, and as Bill pointed out the other day, the NCAC membership map has historically been much more, it's been broader than
Right.
community map.
Yeah,
Yes, it-
and the 406 map may be different than the community boundary because I think it's like the definition is whether you have sewer, water and sewer. So
Yeah, I think it's
Or-
only going to apply to the area where the NCAC's recommendations apply. That's what
well, that's what I'm saying is it may not. Like, I'm sorry we
Oh.
lost Sarah, but if the rule is like the 406 requirements apply where to unincorporated urban areas where you have water and sewer.
Whoa,
we
that
have-
puts a limit on it. That's,
Certainly does.
Yeah,
yep.
but it's bigger than the community boundary.
Yes,
So
It's
That's
different
wacky.
from the community boundary.
Yeah.
everything's bigger than the community boundary.
Yeah.
I mean, the membership boundary, the tax lot boundary, the sewer and water boundary.
And if you were attending our water district meetings, which we had this week, we're discussing requests by Wainema and Horizon View, which is north of Wainema, to come into our district, water district.
wow.
Wow.
So we're getting to the river gradually. Cannery Hills next.
Yes, the Community Association expanded its to the eastern edge is the watershed that flows directly to the Pacific, that top of the watershed of from Ortown south or from Cannery Hill south.
Yeah. Well, I always thought it was from river to the river, but it,
Well, you have to have, yeah, maybe there's no eastern boundary. Okay,
alrighty, Brand.
So the last agenda item is just the meeting wrap up. So we discussed, do we want to review everybody's homework so that everyone like that Rand can, Rand, are you doing the minutes?
yes.
Just to make sure Rand writes it
I had
down
a
right. and
potential
everyone-
scribe, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's here.
Do we have our next two meetings scheduled?
We have
Two.
one scheduled, but so that's also coming up, but let's one thing at a time.
Okay.
So do we want to review the homework both for my so I can write it down for the agenda correctly and so that Rand can write it down for the minutes and make sure everyone's on the same page about what the homework is.
Oh, you mean the homework for next time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Why don't you sum it up?
Yeah, so Guy is gonna send me clumps of the existing community plan, kind of organized differently, looking different with reference points to what it used to be. And then I'm going to create a table of contents draft. And then I'm also gonna create a matrix timeline to get done.
Okay. And Rand, you were saying you and Lori would do something?
Yeah,
Assuming
but
Lori-
I'm gonna have to talk to her. I
Sure.
can't have a clear plan at this point because I haven't even spoken with her. But we'll be
Okay.
looking at other clump possibilities in the more of the narrative areas.
And from the perspective of agenda, so we should have an agenda item to take for Lynn's draft timeline to kind of poke holes in that and kind of firm it up as much as can be firmed up at this time. And what does reviewing your clumps and lumps and table of contents, what do we call that on the agenda? Like, how does that look?
Clumps and contents,
Okay, clumps and contents. All right.
First draft.
1.0.
Okay. anything else that needs to be on the agenda?
Well, I'm not sure what will come out of the executive meeting or if that's just a self-contained item.
It might, so
Yeah, we could put
definitely
a,
not publish the agenda until after that meeting. So if we have to add more stuff, we can do it. But
yeah, because I
want to
would
capture
say-
everything from that you guys know that you want to have on the agenda.
I would put on the agenda a summary of the executive committee meeting, just so, because these guys
Okay.
will be there, so I want to share that with them at least officially in a public meeting. Let's see, for Sarah. Vote. Well. That's probably it, remember. Only, and we don't know what's gonna happen with Cat, and so I'd probably limit it to that and the and the regular items.
Okay.
So until I write up the minutes and find that there's other things in here that I want to add to the agenda.
Now for the scheduled meetings, we have like last time we scheduled for the February 5th, and that's been noticed. 2 weeks from February 5th is the 19th, and that's President's Day. So question, do you want to hold a meeting on the holiday?
So,
Yeah,
so 2 o'clock on the 5th, right? That's
Yep.
the one that's already, okay, got it.
Yep.
I don't think President's Day is, we won't be wearing little hats and things. I think we can go ahead and have a meeting.
So
Is it- What do you think, Glenn and Guy? I mean,
yeah.
it's not gonna-
Yeah, kind of depends on what president is.
Ah,
See,
don't go there, guy.
oh, okay, no,
We won't be done yet.
Yeah.
oh, let's see. So we got the 8th.
And we're,
So the next meeting is February 5th.
February 5th, rather, I'm sorry.
And then I'm asking whether you want to hold the meeting on the 19th, and Rand
Yes.
says yes.
Yes, I think we should.
yeah,
Now, my only caution here is that I am on jury duty all of February. So I won't know until the night before, so just so you know
Okay.
that I'm doing my duty.
I mean, well, so that's every day of February, right? So the
Every day
19th.
in
In
February.
fact, 19th, you're guaranteed to not be in court. So we should definitely do it then.
there you go. It's a
Oh,
good
that's
thing
right.
it's a holiday.
Mhm.
We're taking advantage of the holiday. Okay, good stuff.
And, all right. Okay, so we're done.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate all the coordination that was possible today, and obviously everyone matters here. It's really great. So we'll see you. I'll see some of you tomorrow, and otherwise, take care, everyone.
Special plaudits to Jeff, who has an awful lot to do.
He does.
I do.
Yeah. Well, he gets paid so much.
Yeah,
Right,
it's-
e- Exactly.
High pay
I
rate, what do you
recommend doubling
expect?
his salary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Triple it.
Okay.
Quadruple
Go
it.
for it.
Okay.
Add thousands of dollars.
That's,
Yeah, we could spend the whole budget on you.
Okay,
that would be,
okay.
that would be fair.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Okay.
Rand, do you want to
Thank you all.
adjourn officially?
Bye-bye.
Okay. Call that adjourned.